And it's one of those things where we have various paths we're on when it comes to beliefs, when it comes to health and fitness and so forth, and nutrition. And I always like to go back to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, on Pearl Street in New York City, on the bluff overlooking the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge, when Thomas Edison pulled the switch on the first commercial electric generating plant. Okay, 18 years later, it was 1900. And about 45 new diseases appeared that nobody had ever seen before, but there was this new science called genetics, so they said, oh, these are genetic diseases, and, your whole family's going to get them. And we do have maybe some treatments for the symptoms, but we can't cure them because, they're genetics. Okay, and that was kind of the thing. Well, this whole story is in the book, Hell's Kitchen. Okay, we sell a lot of those. Hell's Kitchen goes through the whole scenario. Okay, you have to appreciate that when you look at the genetic syndromes, okay, they were all just simple nutritional deficiency diseases. The autoimmune syndromes are all nutritional deficiency diseases. They've got a new one now called the metabolic syndrome, which are all nutritional deficiency diseases, because they know I'm going to hammer them if they say a disease is genetic or autoimmune. And it's one of those things where you have to appreciate before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday, September 4th, 1882, life was different in the world. Everybody had a wood stove. Everybody had a fireplace. Everybody had a fire pit to burn garbage and stuff like that. And they would use the wood ashes as fertilizer in their gardens. And the wood ashes were 98% the minerals that the tree had sucked up out of the ground. In some cases, they also threw the coal ashes, in the gardens. And so, again, they came from ancient trees, which had sucked minerals up out of the ground. And they burnt the wood, okay? And what happened was the coal ash and the wood ashes were 95, 98% minerals and 2 to 3% carbon, okay? And then also at the same time, in addition to that, they would also put the wood ashes, I don't know if they did coal ashes, but they certainly did wood ashes, put them in our food as a spice, but also they knew that there was some value in there for health. The people that used the wood ashes in their soup and their stew and their sweet potatoes and so forth, they just did much better than people who didn't use the wood ashes. In some cases, they had some crude analyses of what was in there. In some cases, they didn't. They just knew that wood ashes were good for you. And so human beings, since the beginning of time, since, our beginning, because we came in sort of late in this whole system, even biblically in the Old Testament and the New Testament, they knew that the earth was formed before human beings were formed, and there were creatures on earth before we were here, and then we showed up, and so forth. And in every case, the earliest of creatures disappeared. Okay, why did they disappear? Well, the trilobites, which were around, they were sort of the first big organisms that were there after all the bacteria and amoeba and stuff like that, and seaweed and plankton and so forth. The trilobites, they had 25,000 successful species, and they lasted for millions of years, okay? And then suddenly now they all disappeared, okay? What happened? Well, when I went and looked at the time they disappeared and looked at that time and looked around, it was a time of heavy glaciation, which cut off the food supply to the algae and plankton and seaweed in the oceans, no more oxygen. So the trilobites and many of the other aquatic creatures died from lack of oxygen. And then some years later, the dinosaurs appeared, and they had 1,200 successful species, and they lasted for a long time. And then over a period of 60,000 years, they disappeared. Again, a period of glaciation cut off the food supply to the sea plants and the ocean plants and the swamp plants that made oxygen. And so all the dinosaurs died of hypoxia, okay? And then some years later, human beings appeared. Okay, so we weren't first in line. There were many fossils, many species of animals. We only mentioned two, the trilobites and the dinosaurs. There were thousands of other species of creatures. Some are still around, some disappeared, and so forth. And so we have to sit down and think, okay, what do we need to do to maximize our time on Earth? And just look at it. People were healthier and could do more before the advent, okay, of electricity. Once electricity came along, we didn't have easy access to wood and coal ashes for our gardens. We didn't have easy access to wood and coal ashes to put in our food as a spice and a source of mineral nutrients. And so as a result, we have a problem. Okay, we have all these problems that had not been seen prior to the appearance of electricity. So electricity has been kind of a focal point in the history of the Earth. Now, before that, there were many, many fossils, okay, obviously. And, the old people, in the time of the Old Testament, New Testament, they didn't have equipment and technology to determine age and all that kind of stuff. We do now, and as we're piecing it together, and the story's coming out soon, so don't hold your breath, but it's coming out soon.